So what is up, you guys? I'm back with another video, and this one's going to be a little different. But as I was making some of these, how-to hack walkthrough type videos, I ran across an article that I thought I should really bring attention to, as this really applies to those of us who are, you know, for lack of a better description, nerds, basically. So I was reading some news, reading a news article, and apparently there was going back to 2001, under the Bush administration, there was the Patriot Act that got passed, and unfortunately, it was passed very quickly. And like Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook said, "Move fast and break things," and that's what they basically did with the Patriot Act. They rushed a bill, through Congress. It was signed into law, and it was done very quickly in the aftermath of 9/11, with the crisis that was going on and the threat of terrorism, the threat of more terrorist attacks, equal to or perhaps even more horrific than what happened on September 11th. And I do understand the circumstances. I was alive then. So I'm 31 years old. I was very much alive and old enough to understand what was happening at the time. Here's the thing, though. Whenever you rush a bill into law, what typically happens is there's all of these extra provisions that are there that are either malicious in their intent. In other words, they're like an overreach, a power grab in some way or another, or they're improperly worded or defined, so it leaves a lot of room for power grabbing and overreach, essentially. So what happened in the Patriot Act? There was a lot of provisions, a lot of things in there, but there was one in particular, um, that I think was a really big. It was really more along the lines of being vague, I think, but in its vagueness, it gave a lot of room for basically an erosion of our civil liberties. So in this particular case, it allowed for what it allowed for was the FBI and or CIA to what it gave rise to, I should say. I can go into the provision in more detail, number 215, but I think the salient point for us right now is that it allowed for them to be able to access the search history and the web browsing history of just regular American citizens without any warrant. And this is I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but it doesn't take a genius really to figure out that that is a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment, which gives us protection from unreasonable searches, among other things, and requires that they get a warrant for such searches. See, so maybe our web history and our web searches are not a physical, they're not a physical commodity. They're not a tangible commodity in the sense of, these headphones I'm wearing, the webcam that I'm using to record this video, the lighting that I have here. It's not tangible in that sense. And of course, everybody understands, anybody who's seen cop shows for, whether it's, Law and Order, cops, even Gunsmoke, for heaven's sakes. Anybody who's seen any cop show knows, I'm sure, that the FBI, CIA. Well, the CIA doesn't have jurisdiction inside the United States, technically speaking, but that doesn't stop them. But the point is, the FBI, local law enforcement agencies, state law enforcement agencies, they can't just enter your home and seize your things for some sort of investigation without a warrant, right? They can't enter your home. That's all Fourth Amendment stuff. But again, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, so I'm not going to pretend to be, but it really seems pretty painfully obvious when you look into it that the Fourth Amendment does and should extend to our digital lives, so to speak, our web browsing habits, our web search habits, the stuff you watch on Netflix, the whatever the case may be. Everything you do online, what you do on Facebook, what you do on social media, what you do on YouTube, watching this video, for instance, all of that should be protected under the Fourth Amendment. That really is, I'm not sure why it's debated, because it is pretty painfully obvious. But unfortunately, our Senate doesn't see it that way. So let me read this little bit here. Let me find it. There it is. The ACLU, that's the American Civil Liberties Union, urged Congress members to add three specific amendments that's to the Patriot Act that would limit that would limit it if they reauthorize its powers. So the Patriot Act, one thing I forgot to mention, the Patriot Act, or at least the Provision 215, expired. Thank God, except that they're trying to reauthorize it. What some senators are trying to do is reauthorize it, but with a more limited scope. Rand Paul is one in particular that is trying to reauthorize the 215, but severely cut back in its ability for basically the privacy of regular Americans to be invaded. So anyway, let me read this here. ACLU urged Congress members to add 3 specific amendments that would limit it if they reauthorize its powers. One from Senators Steve Daines and Ron Wyden would have prohibited the warrantless collection of search and browser histories. Senators voted on that Wednesday afternoon, but it failed to pass, coming one vote short of the required 60. So in this case, it was under filibuster, so would have required a supermajority. Normally, things would pass if you have 100 senators, so 51 vote for a measure, it passes. In this case, because with filibuster, it needed a 60 senator supermajority to overcome that, and fell short by 1 vote. And unfortunately, there was one particular senator, Patty Murray, who claimed that they would have voted yes, but they were on a plane to D.C. when they voted. I mean, I don't want to sound conspiracy theory, but I don't think that's an accident that they sort of rushed the vote before Murray had a chance to arrive in D.C. And so basically what that it does is it doesn't necessarily enable the FBI, again, FBI, state law enforcement agencies, CIA, whoever and whatever, the National Security Administration. It doesn't necessarily, this failure of this amendment to pass doesn't enable them necessarily. What it does do, however, is it does sort of continue this power grab that unfortunately our government has been involved in for quite some time in invading the privacy of our American citizens. So it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate, but in all honesty, it is not surprising to me. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to do more research and basically how you can better protect your online privacy, since the government seems to think it's open season with these issues. I'm going to be doing more research. I mean, I would say, square A is make sure you have, if at least if you're not using a Chromebook like I am, if you're using, say, Windows, make sure you have your antivirus, have your firewall, have all of that installed and set up. And beyond that, I highly recommend a VPN, which I know there's been videos coming out recently that have criticized VPNs, and some of those criticisms are legitimate. Some of them are absolutely malarkey. But whatever the case may be, for any imperfections VPNs may have, they still offer probably your best chance for a sort of practical privacy solution. And I say practical because you could just go all the way and use Tails, Linux. That's Linux Tails. Which routes all traffic through the Tor network. You could do something like that, but that's not really practical to use for, everyday life. So as far as a practical privacy solution, a VPN, a good VPN at least, is still probably your best bet, but I'm going to continue to do more research. And if I unearth anything else, I will be sure to put it here and create a video. Until next time, peace out.